I'm the product manager from Canonical, and today this is going to be our agenda. We're going to be talking about the new features that we have for 22.4, for Core 22, and also some work that we have done improving the whole ROS developer experience. I'm going to be talking a lot about new features, probably about technologies that you haven't heard before. So probably you're also tired because it's Friday. So the main key takeaway from this presentation is this: Ubuntu help us get farther. Every single time that I talk with a developer, most of the cases they download Ubuntu and that's it. They think that it's a beautiful open source operating system, and that's the only thing that it can do for you. So that is the main takeaway from this presentation. If you have security concerns, customers telling you your robot is not secure enough, is not compliant with cybersecurity regulation, think, what can Ubuntu do for me? If you want to reduce operational expenses for the software maintenance of your application because you're running as a SaaS robotic company, think about what Ubuntu can do for me. Okay, that's the main message from this presentation, which is giving me some problems, as you can see at the moment. So we are just going to do it like this one more time. No. Yeah. So who needs to go on full screen, right? Okay, so let's keep it simple. It's not letting me. So one thing that is important to remember, we work closely with Open Robotics, and with the release of ROS-I Humble, we made sure that all those packages that need to be running on 22.4 are there for making the whole experience of installing ROS good. So that's a partnership that we started more than 10 years ago when they decided to work with us with the first release of ROS. And in terms of what are we doing for the new release of Ubuntu 22.4, probably the first thing that you heard is that we're supporting the real-time kernel is in beta. This is basically Ubuntu bringing the preempt real-time patch to our kernel line that is, of course, maintained by Canonical, which allows, of course, robotic companies to get the benefits of preempting activities, therefore telling the kernel when something has priority over other activity to take control. So this is a beta release, and it's being supported in the next architectures, as you can see. When we say that it's a generic release, is that we're not targeting a specific configuration of the kernel, because at the end of the day, we wanted to give that possibility to all the developers, not only robotics, but also, for example, in telco. But it's beta, which basically means that you can go try it out and tell us, hey, could you be supporting this specific configuration for the real-time kernel? And as well, you can provide us your feedback if you get any issues. This is how you can try it right now. UA attach the free token. You have to get a free token from the UA. UA is Ubuntu Advantage, so you have to Google that, and you will get then a free token that will allow you to install the real-time kernel beta. 3 lines of code. Okay. Following that, another thing that Ubuntu 22 overcomes in terms of security, which is a huge topic, especially for us in robotics, is that it makes it easier to be compliant with some of the security certifications that you see here in the picture through the use of our FIPS binaries that are also available. It comes with compatibility with the OAuth process for notification of CVEs, which will allow you when you're doing auditing. So when someone is telling you, okay, have you been patching CVEs? You can present that through this tool called OAuth. And we are also supporting Active Directory in Ubuntu 22.4. This also comes with ROS-I support. Basically, we're providing security maintenance for Kinetic, Melodic, and soon this year, at the end of this year, we're going to release Foxit. So for those companies that have robots deployed on Kinetic and cannot migrate for ABC reason, in partnership with Open Robotics, we're providing 5 more years of security maintenance to those ROS Core packages. So with that, you will be allowed to keep your robot secure for your customer and be compliant with those requirements. So if you cannot migrate and you have robots out there, you can use it. Or if you have to respond with requirements such as response time for specific CVEs, you can also get leverage of these services. And it's also super easy to install. If you're using, for example, on your desktop, you have to follow just these steps. Or if you are using it directly on a deployed robot, it has a nice integration to our embedded Linux packages, embedded Linux containers, called snaps, which we can talk in a second. These are some of the other features that were integrated with 2204. Most of them, as you can see, center on security, which is one of our main propositions. And all of this is also brought to Ubuntu Core. Ubuntu Core, like I was explaining to many of you during Automate, is an optimized version of Ubuntu meant to be used for IoT, edge, and robotic devices. This basically means that it comes with those binaries that you need for the deployment of robots, not, for example, the user interface that comes with desktop, because at the end of the day, you don't need that when you're deploying a robot. This means that it has a small footprint, reduced surface of attacks because of these packages, and it also comes with a lot of tools for the deployment of robots. So this is a comparison that you can give between Classic and Ubuntu Core. You can see as well the architecture here that is containerized. So the kernel is running in a container independent from the OS and from the application layer, which basically means that you can update all of those 3 independently. You can update through over-the-air updates. You can benefit from Delta updates. You have automatic rollback. So if you are updating your application on the top and for some reason there's a problem, you can automatically roll back to the previous application that was working perfectly. It comes with a lot of security tools like secure boot, disk encryption, secure confinement, all of these tools that robotics we don't have, because at the end of the day, we are mechatronic engineers, we're electronic engineers, and all of these things are difficult for us to implement. In the same way, for us, it's difficult to implement all this infrastructure for doing the software management of your application. What Canonical is basically doing is bringing the infrastructure that we use for Ubuntu, for our millions of users out there, to get those updates, to get different channels. And that is what we're providing to robotic companies. The same open source tools that you can leverage right now, you can bring to your robot. For Core 22, the new set of features that we bring show that we are centered on the developer needs, but also seeing how these businesses require certain specific tools. So for example, we have validation sets, which allows you to, if I install my application Snap A, I want it first to install Snap B because I need some dependencies. And you can install that logic, and all of that is coming out of the box. But we also present remotely, which allows resellers of your product to change some identity of your device, for example, the brand or the identification number of the device, all of that out of the box, so you don't have to worry about it. Quota groups, for example, I'm running Snap A, I want to limit the amount of memory that is consuming. Or I can kill one application, so I can improve the performance so I don't run out of all the resources. Jumping really quickly, we are working with all of the silicons and OEM partners to improve their hardware for our Ubuntu Core and Ubuntu desktop distribution. So for example, take Intel. Last year we announced a partnership where we're basically putting engineering efforts together to optimize the whole silicon IoTG strategy that they have, starting with the Target Lake and moving forward. And also with Xilinx, we recently, I think 3 weeks ago, we released the KR260. This is just part of the work that we're doing with a lot of ODMs in order to make it easier for developers to, for example, they don't have to install Linux anymore there because out of the box that is running and is supported for 10 years of security maintenance. That is part of the commitment that we're doing for roboticists and developers as a whole, which takes you to this journey of developing your application using the Ubuntu desktop that you know and love. And then, because of the similarities between Ubuntu and Ubuntu Core in terms of kernel libraries and so on, the transition is super easy. And all of that, you can do it with one simple board. And just to quickly jump to another topic about how we have been helping ROS developers improving the whole development experience. No, I cannot show any video. We have basically, and this is, the video was really nice. Sorry to one of my engineers that probably is watching. It was a good video. The whole idea is you have installed Gazebo, right? You can follow the installation process that is upstream. And it's a set of 10, 15 steps. There's a lot of things that can go wrong during that process. Or maybe developers say, okay, this is too long time. So we basically snap Gazebo. So with only one command line, you can install it. The video was going to show you how quick and different that process is compared one to the other one. But it doesn't let me show you. But the same experience that that video was going to show you is the same experience that you could bring to your users. One command line, like normally you use it, and your app will be running on your device. So right now this is called beta, which means that if you want to test it and give it feedback, we're more than happy to get that. And it also opens the door to other projects, like for example, Movie. They start deploying their solutions as well as snaps. And all the community to start contributing as well, because it's an easy way to consume applications on Ubuntu and Ubuntu Core. That was a rough presentation where many things didn't work, but I hope that the message was well delivered.
Time for questions for Gabriel. Yeah, and then maybe like we can get videos fired up later and catch them on or something.
Yes.
To understand the significance of the ultimate kernel, what's different? Installing the RTPM patches on any other Linux system.
Good question. So the question was, in other words, why we integrated the real-time kernel to our 2204? What is the difference between you just making that implementation on your own? When you have big deployment of robots, or especially for companies that need, again, to be compliant with security, you need to be providing that constant maintenance of your kernel. And that's where we try to help developers. You shouldn't be doing the work of maintaining an OS. You shouldn't be doing the work of maintaining a kernel because it's difficult. We need to hire kernel engineers, which there are not many. So if you're watching the video and you're a kernel engineer, you can apply for jobs like that. So it's difficult to do that. And we want to take that burden out of your shoulders. So that's why we're doing it.
Excellent. Good question.
I was trying to understand the difference between like the core, Ubuntu Core image and like a standard server ISO image.
Okay, so the question was, what is the difference between an Ubuntu Core image and the Ubuntu server image? Let's start with the name. Ubuntu server was designed to be used on servers, okay? The Ubuntu Core image was designed to be used on IoT and embedded devices. This comes back to the time where we were trying to do Ubuntu Phone. You remember that initiative? It didn't work, but we learned and we developed a lot of tools for embedded devices. So one of the difference, again, there's packages on server that you don't need on your robot. So that allows you to all the benefits that I was explained. So it's a minimal image as well from the Ubuntu server. So the memory footprint is reduced. And the other thing is these security tools out of the box, secure boot, full disk encryption, all of those things out of the box. And this whole logic for software management. With server, you don't have that, so you will have to integrate those. Ubuntu Core is already there, available.